Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaitam Udirate Nashtaprayasya Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtakim. Thank you everyone for joining today's program. It's a very auspicious evening. It's the eve of one of the most important days of the year. Appearance of Gauranga Mahaprabhu is just a few hours away tomorrow. So, Sameshwar Prabhu, thank you for this opportunity. Today we will be speaking on Bhagavad Gita 10.28. So now I'm going to go to Veda base. I hope you can see my screen. Someone can confirm, please.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thanks. Ayudhyanam maham vajram dhenu namasmi kamadhup prajanaschasmi kandharpa sarpanam asmi vasuki. Ayudhyanam maham vajram dhenu namasmi kamadhup prajnaschasmi kandharpa sarpanam asmi vasuki. Ayudhyanam maham vajram dhenu namasmi kamadhup prajnaschasmi kandharpa sarpam asmi vasuki. Would anyone please like to chant? Don't worry about the pronunciation. Just make the effort. Krishna gives full marks for effort, not the results. Please.
Ayudhyanam aham vajram. Mataji, we both can go together.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mataji, Janki.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Ayudhyanam aham vajram. Denunam asmi kamadhup. Prajanas chashmi kandarpaha. Sarpanam asmi vasuki. Thank you.
Very good. Anybody else?
Can I go next?
Yeah, please.
Ayudhanam aham vajram dehunam asmi kamadhuk prajanas chashmi kandarpa sarpanam asmi vasuki.
Thank you, Savita. Any Prabhuji?
Ayudhanam vajram denunamaski kamadruka prajanashasmi kandarpa sarpanamasmi vasuki.
Nice, very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. So now we'll read the synonyms, translation, and puppet by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ayudhyanam, of all weapons, aham, I am. Vajram, the thunderbolt. Dhenunam, of cows. Asmi, I am. Kamadhuk, the Surabhi cow. Prajana, the cause of begetting children. Cha, and Asmi, I am. Kandarpa, Cupid. Sarpanam, of serpents. Asmi, I am. Vasuki. Vasuki. Translation. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am the Surabhi. Of causes of procreation, I am Kandarpa, the god of love. And of serpents, I am Vasuki. Puppet. The thunderbolt, indeed a mighty weapon, represents Krishna's power. In Krishna Lok, in the spiritual sky, there are cows which can be milked at any time, and they give as much milk as one likes. Of course, such cows do not exist in this material world, but there is mention of them in Krishna Lok. The Lord keeps many such cows, which are called Surabhi. It is stated that the Lord is engaged in heralding the Surabhi cows. Kandarpa is the sex desire for presenting good sons. Therefore, Kandarpa is the representative of Krishna. Sometimes sex is engaged in only for sense gratification. Such sex does not represent Krishna, but sex for the generation of good children is called Kandarpa and represents Krishna. Om Ajnantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathambitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishnabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedant Swaminati Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Kauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you everybody, Prabhu's Matajis. We just read the shloka synonyms, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, and we will get into a little detail. What I'd like to do is keep this interactive. I know that we should end by 8 o'clock because, hello? Hare Krishna. Okay, someone can please mute the mic unless you have a question to ask, please. So 8:30, we are hoping to start the Adivas, and many may be wanting to attend this nice ceremony. Okay, so what's the learning focus of today's 10.8? First is Krishna's opulence. This entire chapter 10 talks about Krishna's opulence. It gets into more and more details. So we'll just do a quick overview of what is Krishna's opulence, why does he describe it, and how we should understand it. So these 3 points we'll cover regarding Krishna's opulence. Then the second one, specific to text 28, all the way from Thunderbolt to sex life. Just see the range how Krishna covers in terms of. So all these, whatever there is, how does this relate to Krishna? How does Thunderbolt relate to Krishna? How does a cow relate to Krishna? How does sex life relate to Krishna? And so many other things there are there. How do these things relate to Krishna? We'll have an understanding of how it relates to Krishna. Of course, each topic in itself, lifetimes we could discuss. Each point in itself could be discussed for lifetime because Krishna is infinite. He's never ending. But what we'll do is just do a top level summary. And then maybe in question answers, we could do a little deep dive to understand it better. Then the third point is regarding opulence, everybody, there's no person, whether he's a sinner, whether he's a great devotee, whoever it is, everybody is either using Krishna's opulence or is abusing Krishna's opulence. There's only one of these two things that you can do. You can't be indifferent to Krishna's opulence. You're either using it or you're abusing it. So how do we know whether we are guilty of a crime of abusing the opulence, or are we spotless? Are we using it as the way it is meant to? That's what we will cover. And then we'll speak a little bit about Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Of course, tomorrow is a very, very important day. So it is natural that we speak about Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Gauranga Mahaprabhu has come here, Krishna himself. He's not an avatar. Keep that in mind. He's not an avatar. He is Krishna himself who has come in the role of a devotee. We'll understand Gauranga Mahaprabhu, the role of a devotee, how he comes here, and then what is his connection vis-a-vis these opulences. And then, he's the bestower of Krishna's greatest opulence. We'll cover that. What is that greatest opulence? And then, of course, question answers. And the credits, of course, are Guru Parampara, beloved, if we are initiated, Guru Maharajas, Shiksha Guru, Diksha Gurus, the Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. We know the Guru Parampara. Also, I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances to Chandramouli Swami, who regarding sex life had given very important instruction in one of our Bhakti Vriksha. So that's what we will speak about today. And as usual, our dear Gauranga Priya Prabhuji, never met him, but I'm so familiar his Bhagavad Gita notes. And then all of you, so many, Sameshwar Prabhu, Hari Kishore Prabhu, yesterday, Jagdish Simha Prabhu, such a nice point he made. It really touched this hard heart of mine. And Savita and I were discussing after the class in the night. There are so many speakers, so many to name, people whom we sit with, eat with prasadam, we serve, we meet, we dance, we sing together. Each one of them, such a gem, has shared so much of their realization, which makes us better in our sadhana. So let's understand first Krishna's opulence. The three topics we'll understand: what it is, how he describes it, how do we understand it. So this particular slide will talk about opulence. The dictionary defines opulence as something in extreme abundance, plentiful. Now, when we talk about Krishna, it is full. There's no ending to it only. Ever growing, full, not just complete, but it keeps expanding. Okay, so tattva, there is this term called tattva. Tattva is a fact. It's like established fact. So we understand these terms, truth, absolute truth, and Bhagwan. So how all this comes together to opulence. To understand opulence, first understand what is truth. What is truth? Truth is independent. So if you want to understand what is truth, if something is true, it should be independent. It means it doesn't require the majority to say that it is the truth. It stands independent. It doesn't need any support of people, opinions, evidence, this, that, and all that. It is independent. The next thing is, it doesn't change. Why? Because it is independent. Suppose something depends on public opinion, the public will say, or majority will say, yes, this is true. And after a few time passes by, oh, no, it is not true. Case in point, the planet Pluto. Pluto, the poor planet Pluto, has been a planet and not been a planet in my lifetime, has at least, I think, gone to 3 or 4 iterations. I don't even know how many. I've lost count and I don't care. Sometimes it is a planet, sometimes it is a not planet. Definition keeps changing. Okay. So truth is independent. It doesn't depend on anybody. Because it doesn't depend, it is as it is. It doesn't change. See these 3 words, as it is, very, very important. Bhagavad Gita, as it is. Doesn't change, as it is. It remains, correct? And it is eternal. It goes on and on and on. If it is something, like we say, you cannot add, like the soul. Nothing can be added to the soul. Nothing can be subtracted from the Jivatma. It remains as it is. That's it, forever. So it is eternal. There is truth, and then we have the absolute truth. Now, what is the absolute truth is, our understanding of truth is actually very relative according to time, place, and circumstances. It is relative. But the absolute truth, okay, is something which is, absolute means whole, complete. Whatever it be, it is complete. So this absolute truth, Shastras tell us we have realizations of the absolute truth, and it can be realized in 3 stages. Let's see what are the 3 stages of the absolute truth. The first one is the Brahman. Brahman is that effulgence which is all pervading. So this truth, the absolute truth, is all encompassing. So this all encompassing feature of that is called Brahman. Okay, next we have is the Paramatma, the localized aspect. So one, it is everywhere, and then the local aspect of that absolute truth is called Paramatma. This Paramatma is an entity. It is alive. It is not abstract, which accompanies each living entity called the Atma. So Atma and Param Atma. Param, you can look at it, Sanskrit word means super, the Param Atma. So this is the localized aspect of the absolute truth. That's the next level. And then the highest level is that the Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the supreme personality of the absolute truth. So the absolute truth is a person. It's not a concept. It's not a notion. Absolute truth is a person. The supreme person, like it says, the supreme personality of Godhead. What is Godhead? Godhead is nothing but another word for absolute truth. The supreme personality of absolute truth is Bhagavan. Now, what does the word Bhagavan mean? It has two. It's a compound word, Bhaga and Van. Bhaga means all opulences, and Van means possessor. The possessor of all opulences is called Bhagavan, correct? And he's a person. And just like you, me, and all of us are persons, we all have a personality. Each one of us has a nature, we have a personality. So the supreme personality of Godhead is Bhagavan, realization. Now, what does Bhagavan? If you're looking at Bhagavan in context to opulences, okay, there are 6 main categories. He has unlimited opulences, but they can be classified for our understanding in 6 main categories. One is wealth, the other is fame, strength, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation. So these are the opulences that Bhagavan possesses in full. All of us, to some extent, have this, to some extent, minuscule. We are tiny. Jivatma is tiny, correct? Bhagavan is infinite. He has unlimited. We are tiny. So he is Bhagavan. These are opulences. So when we talk about opulences, keep this in mind. Truth, absolute truth, and Bhagavan. Nothing will diminish his strength. Nothing will take away his renunciation aspect of renunciation. So here's what Krishna's opulence is. Now the next is we'll talk about. So here, the Shastric references there, Brahma Sameta, Ishwar Parama Krishna, and then to understand, the Supreme is omnipresent. This Brahman aspect, omnipresent everywhere. Because it's everywhere, he's all-knowing, omniscient, and he's omnipotent, full of potency. Now, the Supreme, he has all these characteristics and attributes. Therefore, he is the proprietor, controller, and the enjoyer. So here's how we understand these terms. Supreme, when we talk about the Supreme has to be these 3: omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, and he should be the controller of everything. Supreme, proprietor. He doesn't need permission from anybody. And the Supreme enjoyer, actually the only enjoyer. Now, why does he describe it? Why does Krishna get into all this description of his opulence? Is Krishna trying to show off? Sometimes we get a little bit of opulence. Either we'll directly show off, or we'll do what is called humble bragging. Humble bragging is basically you let the other person know. So for example, what is humble brag? Ekadashi. Oh, it's so difficult, Ekadashi, Nirjal Ekadashi, but 32 rounds, Nirjal. It is really very difficult, but with Prabhupada's mercy, somehow or the other, I can do 32 rounds Nirjal. So you are giving credit to Prabhupada, but actually you want the other person to know that I am doing Ekadashi Nirjal and 32 rounds, so that the other, what a nice devotee it is. So when we get little bit of opulence, we try to brag, either openly or the surreptitious way. But why is Krishna doing it? Krishna has no need to do it. He doesn't really need to show off. So He's describing. Describing means to represent or give an account of something in words. Now, another tattva to understand is that Krishna, because he is absolute, his name, person, quality, everything about Krishna connected to Krishna is not different from him. It is Krishna himself. And we have discussed this in many classes. You must have understood this. You know, his name, in one sense, is more powerful than his person itself. For the reason I forget in whose class some Vaishnava had given this description, that if we need to come and see Radha Sham Sundar ji, we have to come to the temple. We have to make that effort to go to the temple. However, the name Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, it comes to us. When Simeshwar Prabhu and team, they go out doing Nagar Sankirtan singing, yeah, you could be just passing by on the road, no special effort. That sound will come into your ear. He comes to you because he's no different than his sound. So the tattva is Krishna, and anything connected with Krishna is non-different from him. That is another understanding of absolute. So why does Krishna describe his opulence? One is to establish the truth. Okay, he establishes this truth of his absoluteness because it is mercy for the beloved truth, beloved souls. We don't know what's going on in our lives. Most of us are confused. We think we have a plan. Some people don't even have a plan, living day to day. Whatever be that case, you know, we make all our investments. We are making plans for the future, retirement, IRA, this, that, and all everything. But in fact, we are bewildered because we, first of all, really don't know who we are, and we don't know who we are, who we are. Not the bodily identification. We don't know what our purpose is. Jab tak, if we don't understand who we are, what we know what the purpose is, we're completely bewildered. So then he talks about all these opulences. Okay. And once he talks about these opulences and it establishes what the facts are, we'll be able to understand who we are and in relation, what is our relationship with him. That is the truth. Who am I? What is my relation with Krishna? Once we understand this, then everything else comes in place, falls into play. And that is his mercy. Okay. Then why he does this to establish the truth, what is the purpose this? Then he talks about all these for the sake of remembrance. We can remember, we can identify. Remember, describe is to represent or give an account of something in word. If it was just left vague and abstract, we'd be still wandering around here and there, like in a fog, trying to figure out things, what it is, and never understand what the truth is, what facts are, who am I, who is Krishna, what is my purpose? Simple questions, but so profound. So once we do this, he establishes the truth, we can remember, we can make identification, we can relate to it, and we get attracted. All of us are attracted to opulences. All of us are attracted to wealth, beauty, strength. Whenever anyone, you know, some film star, we want his autograph or want to get a selfie, things like that. So that's the attraction. So he does it to make us attracted towards him. When we go to the deity, in front of the deity, when we see their Shringar Darshan, how beautiful the altar is. Everything is so nice and clean, shining, light. And, you know, it looks everything, it attracts us. And whenever something attracts, it becomes easy to surrender. If there is something really horrible and ugly, maybe out of force, they'll do that surrender. But it won't be spontaneous, it won't be willingly. And that's what Krishna wants. Willingly. Surrender what? Surrender of false ego. And once that attraction is there, we are surrendered, it will be easy to think of him. We get absorbed in him. What are the two instructions? Always think of Krishna. Never forget Krishna. So for the sake of, he establishes these truths, for the sake of remembrance, we do get attracted to it. It becomes easy to surrender. We're always thinking of him. We're absorbed in him. And this is how we engage in seva, the most important thing. Bhakti, loving devotional service. And when you engage in seva, you'll never forget him. And what we're doing seva is serving him via his devotees. That's how you serve him. Krishna himself says, you please my devotees more pleasing to me than you please me, myself. And there's nothing bewildering about this, because we even see as a parent-child relation, those of us who are married, If someone does something to a child, it makes us more happy than when someone does something to us directly. So this is how Krishna's opulence as to why he describes it. Now we come to the next one. How should we understand it? What does understand mean? To achieve a grasp of nature, significance or something, explanation of something. How we are able to uh, pick that up and hold it. That is understanding, correct? Now, if we see what's the tattva regarding understanding the entire Bhagavad Gita, this whole Bhagavad Gita, many people say, oh, it is religious text. Religion connotation has come in religion. And somehow or the other, religion has been associated with mythology, fairy tale, and all that. Because understanding nahi hai. But actually, Bhagavad Gita is a science. And it is the study of nature of everything. Science is nature of things as they are, material nature, what we see. But Bhagavad Gita is the study of everything. And all these things are in the 5 main categories. The created, Ishvara. The creator, Ishvara. The created, the jivas. Material nature, Prakriti. Kala, time. And action, reaction, karma. These 5 tattvas and anything and everything is just in these 5 categories. Krishna is the independent one only. Created are several. Material nature are several. There are several universes, not just Mother Earth, not just our galaxy, not just this entire cosmos where there are billions of galaxies, but beyond that also. Time and action, reaction, and how all this thing has been meshed together. So if you understand Bhagavad Gita, you've literally understood all there is to understand. That is the tattva. Okay, so how do we understand it? First is you need to understand it from an authority. Not that anyone and everyone. You can go to anyone, oh, what do you think of this? I think Prabhupada said, the moment you say, I think or I believe, nonsense starts after that. I think it must be like this. I think it is not Krishna who's saying surrender unto me, but Krishna is saying surrender unto that one who's inside Krishna. I think, I believe, I this, I that. If it is factual, just say as it is. So we need this authority, and that authority is coming from Krishna himself. No change, no nothing. Remember, I told you those 3 words, as it is. So the authority, what is the authority in this case? Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And these 3, like a tripod, is always aligned. The Guru will never speak anything which is opposing the Shastras or the Vaishnavas, and vice versa. Everything is congruent, everything. Sometimes apparently it may seem to be a disconnect, but please understand, whenever there are these disconnects, it is the way we are perceiving things, and it is always important to clarify whatever are these doubts. And rather than, oh, I think, this particular Swami has said this because like this and like that, and whatever it be the case. So after authority, what you do is this, what we get, the understanding empowers us. How does it empower us? What is empowerment? Empowerment is the ability to do something, to achieve something. That empowerment is knowledge. We get that knowledge, and then you put it into practice, it becomes realization, correct? And what is that result? The result is enlightenment, no longer bewilderment, no longer stumbling and trying, maybe trial and error. Maybe I get it, maybe I don't get it. Maybe I get it and I think I've got it, but actually I have not got it. I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm very successful, everything. Mera zindagi safal ho gaya. You may think like that, but no, that's not what it is, right? So how we understand it is through authority. When we get it through the authority, it empowers us. When it empowers us, this is a result, enlightenment. And then we know who I am, who's Krishna, what is my relationship with him, what is my purpose, what is my goal in life. Then every word, thought, deed, whatever I do is aligned. And that is success. That is success. Okay. Here's what Prabhupada says: unless one approaches a pure devotee, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can't. It's impossible. Even if you already have been living for countless lifetimes in this material world, another countless more, it will be impossible to understand. You need to have a pure devotee. Pure devotee, one of the definition is as it is, no here and there. I think maybe it is like this, like that. Now let's understand this verse from Thunderbolt to Surbi cow to sex life. How does this relate to Krishna? What does relate mean? Relate means to make a connection and identify with. Right now I'm wearing a dhoti and a kurta and a tilak. This is Vaishnava attire. I have my kanti mala. Okay. Frankly, when I'm wearing this, it makes me feel more at ease. It makes me feel, I don't know if I should use the word spiritual, because I'm a spirit. My identity is a spirit soul. But the consciousness, let's put it that way. Okay, I can relate to it. If someone sees me, they say, oh, here's a Vaishnava. Actually, this tilak is meant to identify. The kanti mala is to identify. The shikha from behind is meant to identify from behind. A policeman wears a uniform. Why does he wear a uniform? Because if you're in trouble in the public, whom will you approach? Whom do you know whether to go to, this person or that person? Oh, you'll go to the policeman. Oh, I'm in trouble. Please help me. So it's a uniform. We can relate, correct? So when all these opulences and Krishna is talking about all this, how does it relate to Krishna? Simeshwar Prabhu a few days back was talking about, Romapad Maharaj has said, whatever exists are only two, Krishna and Krishnas. Just these two things. So keep this tattva in mind, okay? Krishna and Krishnas. So all whatever he's talking about, how can we relate to Krishna? So let's take three of these. Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt, you know what it is, right? That lightning and thunder, correct? Tremendous energy. Just even in a material world, it has like hundreds and thousands of kilowatts of power and energy over there. Extremely destructive. Extremely destructive. And it's fearful. Children get scared. Even sometimes when it cracks nearby, your heart skips a beat just with that sound. Fearful. Fearful because of ignorance. Remember, fear is a byproduct of ignorance. That leads to fear. Fear of the unknown or whatever. Ignorance. Destructive. Ignorance is a very destructive element. It destroys physical, spiritual, everything over here. So this thunderbolt, correct? If we don't understand what is the thunderbolt, we are ignorant of it. We may say that, oh, this is happening because of the ions, and there is this earth is one state, and on the air it gets charged because of electricity, and there is this connection, and this is all that explanation is fine. Nothing wrong with it. But what causes all this? How does it happen? Sure, those ions, why did the earth become in this state? Why did that air become in negative? I don't know, one is negative, one is positive, or whatever it be that case. Why is it like that? Why isn't it the other way? Why don't they remain in balance only? So there is a purpose behind a purpose behind a purpose. Sarva Karana Karanam, Ishwar Parama, Krishna. That's it. So it is very destructive. But the same thing, it can be very, very constructive. When you understand that it has a constructive element behind it, then you are fearless. You understand. Knowledge. Remember the previous side, that knowledge. So here Krishna says, of all the weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Thunderbolt can be destructive. It can destroy ignorance. Look at it in that way. The other way is, if we have knowledge of the thunderbolt, it will make us fearless. Not just thunderbolt, but anything. When you have knowledge of Krishna, you are absolutely fearless. You don't care whether you're laid off. You don't be afraid whether COVID. You don't worry whether this war, Russia-Ukraine, will escalate into World War and a nuclear war, and everything will get over. And so many fears are there, which are there. Knowledge of Krishna is constructive. It makes us fearless. Next is Surbi cow. What is cow? Cow is one of a mother. Mother is someone who's nurturing and always giving. And she gives spontaneously, unconditionally. The unconditional, unmotivated, uninterrupted. The closest one can come in the material world is to a woman who is a mother. The love a mother has to her child comes closest to unconditional, unmotivated, and uninterrupted, spontaneously. All of us, we also, of course, we love, but there is always that tinge of give and take. So Krishna says here who he is, like the Surabhi cow, always giving, nurturing. And we can see it, Krishna is always nurturing us, whatever is there. Next slide, we'll see that. Now it comes to sex life. You know, sex life is something which is the highest pleasure, material pleasure. Actually, they say sex makes the world go round. Of course, gravity and whatever else is there, physics is making it spin. But internally, our mind is spinning faster at what Earth is going, some 30,000 miles per hour or something, whatever be that case. Spinning faster. Everyone is chasing this, either openly or covertly, hidden. It's there, always on the mind. And whatever else is being done is for billions of industry. In fact, pornography is the highest traffic on the internet. You know, people sometimes say Google is like God. It has all the answers, whatever you want to put in. The most things people are looking search term is related to sex life. That's how much crazy the mind is, because the highest sense gratification. We forget what the true purpose is. We don't know who we are. So in this bodily conception, okay, naturally, you know, pleasure-seeking entity, the highest pleasure is what we are seeking. Many years ago, we had asked Chandramouli Swami, because what does the first thing which teaches us, the four regulative principle, no illicit sex. Now, no illicit sex is not just a physical relation, but it's also the purity of your word, and then also purity of the thought. How will you control your mind? Of course, you can gradually control it. You know, that's where the diet comes in. Prasadam, it's very helpful. You control your tongue. The tongue controls the belly. Belly urges of the belly controls the urges of the genitals. And the urges of the genitals are controlled, then the mind gets stabilized. So everything is interconnected. So we asked Maharaj, you know, these things look fine, but especially when summer comes and, you know, nowadays, Matajis and all, almost half naked. And if you look, it just brings thoughts of sex. So what to do? We're trying to do sadhana, and over on this side there is so much of Maya which is hitting all the time. You know, sex scan is literally on your phone with all this pornography. You could get it straight away on your phone. So how do you maintain all this when there is so much? He gave a very simple answer. You know, whenever such thing happens, just think of Krishna and know that anything that is Stri is Krishna's pleasure. Stri means female, woman. We are all das. So when it comes, just think of Krishna, and then it will automatically go away. But sex life, there is a purpose behind it. And Krishna says, I am sex life for the continuity, to have progenies who would be Krishna consciousness. Of course, science has now made it, you know, you don't have to bear the consequence. In the natural course of things, if a male and woman, female unite, there will be a progeny. However, because of contraceptives and pills and all these things, you know, you kind of shirk your responsibility, but still it has an effect. Karma comes to bite you. It is not that, oh, you know, I've enjoyed myself and now no need to worry about the consequences. These things have even an emotional toll on us. But Krishna is still saying, I am sex life. What is that sex life? For the purpose why it is. To beget children who would be God conscious. That's the purpose of, and actually that's the reason why it is, because it's a big responsibility. So for that purpose, you know, there is that pleasure that one may enjoy. This is what he says, right? In Bhagavad Gita 7.11. Balam balvatam chaham kama raga vivarjitam dharma viruddha bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshava. According to the principles of religion, I am that sex life. And of course, when devotees get married and there is union, there is a samskar where they chant 50 some rounds before getting together. And because your consciousness gets purified, and whatever you're thinking at that time of the act, that's how the progeny turns out to be. And this is factual. I mean, there is enough in common around us and also in the Shastras how it is explained. So then, as we had spoken earlier, everyone abuses, opulences. Are we guilty or spotless? Here are some definitions. If you're guilty, it dirties the consciousness. If you're spotless, it remains as it is, who we really are. So we have this Krishna's opulence, the utilization, and what the outcome is. So how do we understand whether we are guilty or no? Now, here's what it says in the Bible. We all live off his generous bounty, gift after gift after gift. So earlier also, there's nobody who is not using or abusing Krishna's opulence. Now, the same thing is what the Bible says over here. So Krishna's opulence, okay, for whom is it meant? It's meant for you and me, the jiva, correct? Jiva is not just a human body, it could even be a bacteria. Then it depends how we utilize it. Utilization comes first from intent, okay? And for whom the beneficiary is. If I'm using something, for what am I using it? For whose benefit is it that I'm using that? Okay, and then what is the outcome? The outcome is obviously we're doing it for pleasure or to further improve our status quo, which finally will come down to pleasure. Then for whose pleasure? For whom are we doing it? In a material consciousness, we all do it for ourselves. I, me, myself, mine. Spiritual consciousness is the same act, you're doing it for Krishna. So this is your benchmark or the workflow. For whom? For us. The intent, examine who is the beneficiary. The intent is for pleasure. Whatever we are doing is pleasure. Why? We are Anandamaya Vyas. But for whose pleasure? My pleasure or Krishna's pleasure? If it's for my pleasure, there is guilt. If it is spotless, it's for Krishna's pleasure. That same act. So God's gift is open to everyone without any charge, just like pouring of rain. From God's gift, the cloud, open to everyone. That is God's gift. God's gift is not for a particular person or individual. It's for everybody. This human form is developed for utilizing the gifts of God. That's who we are. We have this human. Utilize it in a spotless manner. That's the whole purpose of the human life. Now, a little bit about Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is the bestower of Krishna's greatest opulence. What is Krishna's greatest opulence? Would anyone like to have a go at it? We discussed wealth, beauty, renunciation, the 6 broad categories. Can anyone? Don't worry about right or wrong answer.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I think it was his most merciful.
Yes, mercy is, I'll say, is like a characteristic. But what is that opulence, the wealth or the abundance? What is the greatest?
The love of Godhead, spreading the name and the love of Godhead.
That's what you said, Janki Mata. Thank you. Love of Godhead. That is an opulence. Just think about it. Beyond all these things is love. We call him Namo Mahavadanyaya, right? Krishna Prem Pradayate, Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaur Tishe Namaha. You're widely distributing pure love of God. Krishna. Krishna as himself makes certain conditions. Aham tam sarva papebhyo. Correct? What does he do for that? Surrender first to me. So Krishna doesn't very easily, is not very easily accessible. And this love of Godhead is his treasure. He holds it very close to him. What did he come here as his devotee? Here, take. No qualification, no disqualification, no nothing. And how did he give it? Mataji said it correctly, by his name. Just chant this. So this is who Mahaprabhu, of course, tomorrow is his day. This is what he has done. This is what he is doing, Mahaprabhu. So thank you, Prabhus, Matajis. Any questions, any points we can discuss quickly? Here's what Prabhupada says. Please read Prabhupada's books. You can associate with me by reading my books. We were talking about relate, no? We were talking about how a policeman wears a uniform so we can identify. So similarly, you want to have a relation with Prabhupada, you want to relate to Prabhupada, please read his books. Please discuss his books. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. Okay. So if there are no questions, Simeshwar Prabhu? Or you may have a realization and a point or a comment or a correction also. Please feel free. It's an open forum. Imagine if the mind could remain so quiet when it comes to question answer session when we're doing japa. How nice the quality of a japa would be.
Yeah. Prabhu, I was about to ask you about the consciousness of how we could enter this holy appearance day tomorrow and correct the consciousness. You have any thoughts on that?
If I understand your question correctly, Mataji, what can we do to purify our consciousness so that we can tomorrow's day, how we'd be able to participate nicely in that.
Yes, Prabhu.
Seva. Engage in seva. Understand this, Mahaprabhu, no matter how dirty our consciousness is, it's no consideration. Mahaprabhu doesn't consider any faults. That's his greatness. Mahavadanyaya. Even the most dirtiest to dirtiest, he says, it's okay, no problem. So our consciousness, if you have to clean it, engage in seva. Engage in seva, not just tomorrow. There are many seva to be done. Krishna Naman Prabhu put a list, right? When he's put a list, Simeshwar Prabhu, things to be done. When we engage in seva, it cleans our consciousness. And the more menial seva that we do, the more it scrubs the consciousness. So just look at your consciousness like a bhandi, a vessel, and full of contamination it is on it. An iron skillet, and wo fry karke oil, everything is usme jam gaya over here. Now, one way of doing it is, you could take it, put it under water, a little soap, and lightly do it with a scrubber. It'll take years to get it in its shiny state. But the more force and pressure that we apply, better, more and more of that dirt will come out, and cleaner it will get. So seva is something we can engage in all the time. Seva is not just in the morning we get up and do japa, or whenever we do japa, or we attending class, or we go for cooking, or whatever. You're offering bhoga at home, whatever. All those are sevas. Seva can be 24/7, just thinking, you're reading. So engage in service. That's how our consciousness gets purified. And the best way is to engage with others who are doing service, who are purifying themselves. So there is always strength in numbers, no? So the best way is not just tomorrow. Of course, outwardly we have a bath, we shower, we brush our teeth and all, clean body, we wear clean clothes outwardly. But consciousness is by serving. Then our consciousness gets purified. Make an attempt also, just an attempt, and Mahaprabhu is happy. That's what I said. Krishna doesn't look at your result. He sees our effort. Success or failure, don't worry. Just do it. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru. I know you have to rush, so thank you so much for taking time to answer.
Yeah, Sameshwar Prabhu will. Okay. Hari Bol, shall we bring this to a close if nobody has it? A question or a comment? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Very much appreciate this. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mm.